This ain't advice. I'm not your advisor. And as they say in the biz, slap that subscribe button. We're only about 100,000 away from 1,000,000. We're almost there. Welcome to a special episode of Buck Talk, where I talk about the coronavirus recovery rebate checks, the 1,200 Trump bucks that most people can expect to get. So I'm going to give a couple of FAQs, cover, will you have to pay this back if you make a lot of money this year, kind of the basics of how it works. So first of all, I'll talk about how you get it. So if you've had to pay taxes or get a refund and did direct deposit, then the IRS is going to try to use that account to give you this $1,200 rebate. They're going to send $1,200 through that line. If you've changed that account or the account that you used the last time that you filed your taxes, which could be all the way back in 2018 if you hadn't done your 2019 taxes yet, then you're going to want to make sure they know that. And if you've never used direct deposit, if you've always mailed in a check or they mailed one to you and your address has changed, then you got a big issue. I want to make sure they have the updated address. I understand their website has a place for you to do that now. It's up and running, but it's getting a bunch of errors because so many people are flooding to use it. I don't know exactly where that is, but I would say look it up if you aren't sure that the IRS is going to know where to find you. So how does this actually work? Basically, every tax-paying American, so you can't be a dependent of anyone and you have to file tax returns, is going to get a rebate of $1,200. Technically what it is it's a refundable tax credit, which just means you can get it. It doesn't matter if you pay taxes, doesn't matter if you pay zero tax or not. It does phase out if you had a high enough income. So if your income was over $75,000, then it starts to phase out $5 for every $100 of additional income. If you're head of household, it starts to phase out at about $112,000. And if you're married and you filed jointly, then after $150,000 of AGI, which is what goes on your tax return, then it starts to phase out again, $5 per $100 of additional income. So that means if you're at $150 as a married couple, you each get the $1,200, so $2,400, but it starts to phase out. So it takes a little longer to phase out. Also, if you have a dependent child who's under 17, so they can't have turned 17, you get an extra $500 per kid. Now, the way this works, the way that they're sending checks now, is they are looking at your more recent of your 2018 or 2019 tax returns and saying, do you qualify for this or are you phased out? Now, that means if you qualified in 2018 but had a big income year in 2019, you may want to hold off on filing that return until closer to the July 15th due date, because you may basically either talk yourself out of the check by filing that return or make it delayed until 2020, which I'll talk about in a second. But you're not doing anything wrong by waiting. You're getting the money that you're supposed to get. You're certainly allowed to do it, but you might want to wait. So what they're doing is saying if we have either a 2018 or a 2019 tax return that qualifies, we're going to send that money as soon as possible. Now, that also means if you had a lot of income in 2018 and you didn't qualify, you may want to file 2019 sooner than later, trying to get the tax credit sooner. We don't know when, and I still don't think to this day they've said when they're taking kind of the snapshot of what people's incomes were in those years. And so when it doesn't matter when you file anymore, I don't think they want us to know until way after it's done and they're already doing everything. But it is something to think about, that you may want to either accelerate or not accelerate your tax return. So then the next big question is, what happens in 2020? So technically, this is a 2020 piece of tax law, and it's going to apply in 2020. The big question that a lot of people have is, if I earn a lot in 2020, I am not affected by this, but I did qualify in my 2019 tax return, but my 2020 income won't qualify. Well, I have to give it back when I pay my taxes next April. The answer is no. You do not have to pay it back if you get it. What about if you don't qualify for your most recent tax return, but you will qualify in 2020? You will be able to get it in April 2021 when you file your taxes. However, if you don't qualify for either, you don't qualify in 2019 and your 2020 income is going to be high as well, you're out of luck. There's no way that you're going to get the $1,200 or $2,400 if you're married. Those are kind of the basics of it. That's what you can expect. That's how it works. Those are the big things that you should be thinking about. We don't know exactly what the timeline is, but as of today, April 15th, people are already starting to get their direct deposits into their accounts. So it seems like it's moving pretty quick. Good luck, and I hope that answers your questions.